Hey, dude, Daniel, thank you for joining, man. We have been trying to do this for a while now. We've
Yes.
we've already changed the schedule once already, and it's nice. It's nice that we finally get to do this recording. So, for those of you who are watching this video, this is Daniel Fu. He's executive creative director based out of Singapore. A person I've never, I guess, directly worked with in the past, but
No.
we've been in the same social circles and work circles, so that's kind of how we've known each other during my time in Singapore. And so I have some very interesting. Uh, well, you've shared some interesting stuff already, and I wanted to see if we could get that on a session like this because I think it's very
Mm.
important for the community here.
Mm.
So, getting right into it. So
Okay.
there's one of the things that I've always been fascinated about is are people who originally come from an advertising background and then they make that shift into the client side, and you
Mhm.
happen to be one of those people.
Mhm.
Now you did it in after the pandemic. I think it was in 2021 when you moved across to an e-commerce brand, a very well known one in Singapore, and you spent a bit of time there.
Mm.
And I guess one of the first things I would like to ask is, as a person who's never done it myself, um, what's it like moving from? I'm assuming, and I'm looking here right now. You had been in advertising at that point for well over 10 years, 12 plus years before you made that move to the client side.
Yeah.
Was that a challenging shift? So once you
Mm.
got there, once you're in that system, surely 12 years plus whatever it is, it's not going to look exactly the same. What was it like going to the client side?
Strangely, it felt exactly the same. But I guess the first month, it was still a traditional, uh, well, not completely. So it was a client job in the sense that in the first month that we, as in myself and the rest of the team, um, so I was new. The I guess you would call him the ECD. The ECD of the in-house team was also new. We joined on the same day. So within the first month, we still had a pitch for one of the campaigns. So we did speak to two agencies. So I think at the point we were still kind of, or at least the department was still figuring out how we were going to do this. Were we going to do it all by ourselves, or were we still, holding pitches for agencies to come and pitch for a campaign? So that first month, while it didn't feel that different because we were still thinking of ideas for certain things, we were also still finishing up some projects that were kind of working with working with agencies off pitches. So I did go through one pitch myself personally. So that was new. But that fell through. So we executed that ourselves. So in terms of transition from an agency model to in-house, it was the same thing. So basically, we had a full agency set up. I mean, creatively anyway, we had a quote unquote ECD. There were six CDs, including myself, and then we had art directors. And then not six at the point, we had four at the point, building up to six, and one or two art directors, and we were in the process of getting more.
Traditionally, when advertising people say client side, we think, oh, the marketers, right?
Yes.
Now, obviously, that's changed because it's been a good 10, 15 years where that shift of the in-house team model has been happening, right? before
Mm,
before those 10, 15 years, agencies were kind of the place to be, the place to go to. So you're a marketer, you have a marketing team, they do all the background stuff on what's happening with the brand, but
mm,
then they always have to engage with an agency. So
correct.
I think it's pretty clear you're moving across during that phase that we've seen happening over the past decade plus, right? Which
Mm,
is we want to be a little bit more self-sustaining than relying on an agency. And certainly when you're with a brand like the one you were with, which is a very, very big e-commerce brand,
mm,
it does make sense. I mean, if you look at even like if you remember like Facebook, right? Facebook was, well, what I
Mm,
call an online media company,
mm.
but then they set up their own in-house team. It makes sense. They have the critical mass to justify creating that. When you guys got in there, were that was that marketing team still there? Is that,
Yeah.
do they now become part of your team, or are they still siloed? Are they different, as if it's still an
Okay.
agency and a marketing team?
No. So we become part of the team. So the creatives are part of the marketing team. So it's basically like sitting in the same room with the clients, except now the clients are your colleagues. So whatever they need comes directly to you.
Many years ago, long before you moved across to the client side, I had an opportunity, let's say, to move to the client side, let's say in the early 10s,
Mhm,
early to mid 10s. And at that time, the what is now normal of agency people shifting to things like Facebook, things like Google, things like
mhm,
e-commerce, it's been very normalized for the longest time now. Back then, I used to think to myself, no, why would I go to the client side? If I go to the client, I always had this theory, right? The great thing about being certainly creative people, I'm speaking for creative people like
mhm,
myself right now. One of the great things about being a creative in agency side is objectivity,
mhm,
right? A client has a brand problem, campaign problem,
mhm,
what have you. You can give them, if you're certainly of a certain of experience and leadership, you get
mhm,
to give your opinion on behalf of, I represent the agency, this is my advice to you. The
mhm,
clients may not always agree with you, but
mhm,
we have that that I don't want to call it tension, but there's that partnership there where we are trying to figure out together what's right. You guys understand the marketing end of it. We are very good at the agency
mhm,
creative ideation
mhm.
strategy side of it. That's why we give you opinion. So I used to think going to the client side, that felt like a, not a conflict of interest for the brand, but conflict of interest to myself as a creative. Did you feel that? Is or is that just
A lot of the times when you go and pitch for a client, um, there are a lot of things we don't understand. Right? We're guessing. There's a lot of guessing involved. So obviously, you get a brief from the client, the strategist break it down. You work with the strategist on the brief, and then you work on the brief. But still, I think in that one or two meetings with the client, a lot of things go unsaid. So it's always still, I would say, at least 20% a guessing game, especially if it's a brand you've never worked with before, right? If it's a completely new brand you've never worked with before, there's a lot of nuances you just don't get. So in that first month at this job, I think a lot of it was just pure learning. We were pulled into all sorts of meetings that weren't creative to kind of understand some of the goals for the marketing department. So in that, I think we learn a lot about the business that you won't necessarily learn from, say, a briefing session if you were in the agency. So that being said, within the first month, when we were kind of finishing up that project that started before we were there, we heard the two pitches from the agencies, and I think very quickly we understood like, oh, okay, if we were in an agency, we would probably have come up with similar ideas or similar territories, but we could also immediately see as creatives in-house why they may not be the best fit sort of ideas. Um, and again, it's something you wouldn't know unless you're sitting in a room with the rest of the marketers and really understanding what it is they're trying to do with a particular campaign. So I think, yeah, the first 3 months even very steep learning curve to understand what the business wants. So I think the to answer your question, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but the benefit of one, having in-house creatives, two, being an in-house creative is that deep understanding of the business and the business objectives, um, and then translating that into creative work, which I think allows you to create these things or these campaigns really fast and in a high frequency without kind of losing pace.
I never. I mean, I understood the or rather, I could imagine what the advantage
Mm,
of being an in-house creative for the actual brand work, and the thing you mentioned, like you get
mm,
more understanding because you're closer to it. There's no more secrets.
mm,
You're all on the same team. But I never actually thought about the fact that certainly when you're now dealing with ad agencies,
mm,
now you can actually, because you've been there, you go, oh, they must have gone from A to B to C to get to this, and
mm.
but now I can see, because I'm on this side and I have more information, that that might not be the right thing. So okay, so this is interesting. This is getting into interesting territory. I
Mm,
wonder what this says. That we needed for X agency people to have gone to the client side in order to create more, let's say, an efficient output.
mm, mhm,
Is that, does that say something about the relationships between agencies and clients? Do you know what I mean? If you've
mm.
cited that, oh look, but I can see it now, and I see the merit of it. Well, why couldn't we do it before we needed to push add people into in-house?
I don't think we couldn't have done it. I think it's always been done, especially for agencies that have a long relationship with a client. Then they have that understanding. They've done enough campaigns, they've been in enough meetings, they've spoken to the client enough to have that sort of understanding. Certainly when, and I mean, without having to pull up any examples, I think we can all think of agencies that have worked with a particular brand for a long time and have a very long, successful relationship with that brand. And I think that comes from working very closely with the marketing team. So you don't necessarily have to sit in the same room, but if you've been working with the same clients for, you know, a long period of time, then you will have that understanding. Versus say when things are a bit more project based as they are now, where you usually come in completely fresh and you have no idea what, um, or you have some idea, but your idea is based on, or your idea of what they want is based on the past campaigns they've done with other agencies on a project basis, but they may not have gotten it 100% correct. So the kind of impression you have of the job to be done is based on what may not be perfect solutions in the client's eyes. And then they also don't have any examples to show you because maybe they haven't done it yet. So that does make it a bit challenging. Whereas um, for an agency that's worked with a client for a long time, they then naturally understand the ins and outs of the business. If you are working in-house, then you get there a lot quicker. Um, does that raise the problems of maybe both you and the marketers don't really understand what the problem is? That could happen, or what the challenge is, or what the want is. That definitely can happen. That can also happen in a model where an agency and brand have been working together for a long time. That can also happen, but at least you're aligned. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so okay, then the next question is, once you had that light bulb moment, oh, that's why the agencies are doing that, or
Mhm.
that's why we could have. Question is, who do you, which side do you feel uh, more sympathy for? It's like, oh shit, the agencies are not getting the full news, or oh shit, we weren't doing enough of a good job with our clients. What was the feeling you got once everything was clicking in and you understood the nuances and the differences? Like, did you feel like, I wish the agencies, in an ideal world, the agencies would be closer to us, or in an ideal
Mm,
world, the client should be closer, or vice versa, or both? Or, I mean,
mm,
how did you
mm.
see it?
Uh, Again, it was a quite a different kind of experience because the nature of e-commerce business, right? Especially one that wants to appeal to many different, I guess, passions. Because for an e-commerce company, you basically sell everything, right? So in everything there is fashion, there's tech, there is bargain hunters, there's sports, there is cosmetics, there's a whole range of things. So we did end up doing a whole bunch of campaigns for different segments. So that it was still challenging, right? Because you're not just doing an e-commerce ad, you're doing a fashion ad. You're not just doing an e-commerce ad, you're doing a cosmetics campaign. So there were still things I think that required, like, quote unquote, agency thinking, because it's not something any of us can call ourselves experts at. Um, so it was still a case of working on very new things all the time. Obviously, there were the very set kind of seasonal, just a big sale kind of campaign, which I think we probably had a better handle on as an in-house team, because we knew exactly what each sale was meant for, or what the goals of each sale were. But if you go into, say, the different verticals, then it's just as challenging as agency with client. Mm,
Okay. Um, you mentioned that um, when you move to the client side, it's like you're part of one big team, marketing
correct.
people and the in-house people.
Mm,
Do you think do you find the transparency that you get once you're within the marketing team and all the rest of it, right?
mm,
Is there more openness to give input into the marketing side and the marketing people into the creative side? So
mhm.
just to reframe, a marketing team is used to making suggestions and telling how the creative should be built and all that, right? That's part of the job. Did you find the in-house creative team where then at that point are you're able to now be going backwards a little bit to say like, hey, you know what? Now that we are all in this one team, may I make a suggestion? I wonder if this marketing should be taking into consideration, or this things that normally an agency is not able to do with a marketing team because they don't have all the information. Is that an opportunity that you found?
I think there are definitely more opportunities for that to happen. Um, but we certainly weren't in charge of what the calendar of campaigns would be, if that makes sense. So yeah, so it was still a case of answering to what the marketers' needs were, and then trying to make work for that. So it's not really a case of, okay, we've decided to go in this direction and do a campaign for XYZ, and the creatives coming and going like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that. We should do ABC instead. Mm,
I think what I was getting at was more. I mean, you mentioned it earlier about there are still some agencies who have very good relationships because they've known the client for a long time. Remember that conversation you
mhm,
were having,
mhm,
right? I'm saying this. I'm kind of saying the same thing. The difference between an agency and a client relationship, which is new and they don't know enough about each other,
mhm.
is you are kind of just going, yes, let's do it. Let's come back forth until you build that rapport. And
Yeah.
then the difference is when you have that long relationship, an agency can then talk to the marketing team as an extension of themselves in some ways, and
Mhm.
say, yeah, you know what, I think let's look at it that way. So what I'm saying to you is this. My thinking is, does that shortcut it? Does making an in-house team sit with marketing shortcut that
Oh,
time period it takes to
yeah, for
build that
sure.
kind of
Yes,
relationship when you do that?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think the the form that the campaign takes is a bit more. You definitely get a bit more say, um, because I can show you it immediately, right? Like if we have a brief and the deliverables are set, we can come back and say, but what about if you do it this way instead? What if instead of just a film, it's an interactive film instead of uh, can we work some mechanics in to make this a bit more interactive? Can we maybe change the promotional mechanics a bit to fit the idea? I think that there was a lot more room for that, for sure.
And
Yeah.
I imagine it saves a lot of time because you can do it
Mm,
instantly, right? You don't have
yes.
to wait for the next scheduled meeting and then you
Correct.
go back and right, because that's also this inefficiency that I find, or,
Mm,
or I guess is part of the agency client relationship, which is,
yes.
we meet at a certain point because of scheduling, then we
Mm,
have to go back because we have to talk to the rest of the team, and then you
mm,
come back together, and an in-house kind of shortcuts that, right?
yeah.
So look, these are, while obvious advantages to having an in-house team, I think it's worth kind of comparing the two, if I make a suggestion which I think is best for the brand, and I'm on the agency side, an agency
mm,
is going to be able to protect me because my job is to give the best suggestion, and
mm,
then we can deal with how the client feels about it. But
mm.
if I'm on the client side, my salary is being paid by the person that I'm telling that no, I think we should do it this way. I found that objectivity goes. I don't know if you've
Mm.
necessarily addressed that though.
Ah, um, well, definitely. Like if you go to a client meeting and at that point, if something gets rejected or something gets killed, there is a bit of fear in being reactive and going like, wait, hold on, what about if we just do it this way without having a full discussion with the team? I think there is a bit of there's always a bit of hesitation of reacting too quickly. Whereas in in-house
For
for the
agency
agency, yes,
right, yeah.
yeah, and then you go away and then you work on that hunch for a week or however long, and then you come back the next week and then you're wrong, right? And they disagree, and then it does cause a bit of delays. It might piss someone off, like why do they not get it? But in the in-house team, while we're having the review and let's say something's getting shot down, you have the privilege of going like, wait, hold on, scrap that. What about if we did it this way instead? And then it becomes a discussion internally because we're all on the same side. And you're more likely to solve the problem on the spot than say agency come in with 2 weeks of work, go through all of it, and then there's a disagreement, and we're gonna okay, let's go back and think about it, and then maybe have a check-in somewhere. All that's gone. In an in-house team, if something gets killed, we just fix it on the spot. Um, have a long discussion. Uh, if there is an idea, a reactive idea, and then we can fix it from there, or let's talk about it tomorrow. So it does happen a lot faster. Yeah,
All right, makes sense.
yeah.
Well, as in rather, you've kind of convinced me. I wonder then how this next part of the conversation is going to go.
Okay.
Yet here you are, Mr. Daniel Fu,
Hmm.
who's now come back to the agency side. So
Hmm.
that's another reason why I thought this is such a unique thing to talk to you. You're a guy who's kind of been on one end. I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to use just an analogy, just for a bit of comedy. I remember watching, not reading, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Hmm.
and in that is when I learned that apparently dolphins started in the water.
Okay.
Evolutionary speaking, they started in the water, they went to land, and you can see they went back to water. I
Okay.
kind of see it a bit like that.
Is that
Like
science fact? I can't remember the movie. Very
it's
bad
a
movie amnesia.
it's an evolutionary fact. I'm saying I
Okay.
just picked it up from the movie, but it's interesting that if you follow the line of an actual species, they've actually, because everything's out in the water, right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Let's not get too carried away with getting down this rabbit hole. But the fact is, everything's out in the water. This particular line of species came onto land,
Hmm.
but then they eventually went back to water. That doesn't happen very often in evolution.
I
Okay,
understand. Yeah. Yep.
so putting that aside, that was a really bad digression. The point is, you're an agency guy
Yeah.
who spent I was a good 10 years in that. Then you've gone and you've clearly demonstrated what you saw was the advantageousness of being on the client side.
Hmm.
Now that you're back on the agency side once again,
Hmm.
albeit in a first of all, you're an ECD coming back as well. Now you understand things, and you have the advantage of hindsight. You have that information. How's it been different? Number one, what has changed for you that you didn't realize was happening, and number two, how are you approaching the return to advertising?
Okay. I think I have a better understanding for the challenges of clients. Because I would suppose in the past, if when or I guess when at least when I was a lot more junior, going to a client with an idea that I felt very strongly about, and then having them come back and say it doesn't work, it's always a bit of a no, why doesn't it work? I don't understand why you think it doesn't work. Um, and now, even though obviously we're working with clients that are not the place that I worked with before, so it's a completely new thing. Um, you inevitably sometimes still feel that way when you present an idea and you fully believe that it works, but they tell you, no, it's not the right fit. It's not for us. Um, it does become a bit easier to swallow, I think, because you start thinking about, well, they must have a challenge in maybe with the other stakeholders in the agency, because in the company, sorry, because it's not just the marketing guys, right? The marketing guys have to talk to the product guys, they have to talk to the finance guys, and then there are business objectives that may not be entirely clear to the agency. So I think it's allowed me to be a lot more objective about feedback and kind of finding ways around the feedback to come back for the second round, for example, if something dies. So yeah,
I mean, and
yeah.
that's also comes with experience and leadership anyway, right?
Mm,
I think the one of the things, advertising people might not be perfect in many ways, but one thing I believe, if you can stay in the business long enough,
mm,
you get thick skin. You have to be able to
mm.
deal with no's.
Yeah.
No's, certainly for creative people, uh, actually not even creative people, everyone in the agency who deal with clients, facing a no is part of the job in many
Yes.
ways, because it's about incremental improvements and getting to know the client better and what they want more. And so that's, and then when you get to leadership, I think hopefully by that time you you can dust it off and move on, and let's fix the problem, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, so that does make sense. Did you find, so besides what you brought back with your experience into advertising, did you notice any huge changes in the time that you were away?
In the time that I was away,
Well, as in on the client side, you know what I mean? Like, did, like, oh shit, like I came back and some things are not the same anymore. Because this is like you've moved across right after the
mm,
pandemic, and as we know, the pandemic has made multiple changes now that we are
mm,
not going to move back from. What
yep.
were the kind of things that you saw when you came back to the agency way of doing things, agency world?
I don't think there were very big differences. I think the main thing was, so it wasn't after the pandemic. So it was kind of still in the middle of it, right? So early 2021, um, e-commerce was having a huge boom, obviously, because everybody was still indoors buying things online. So they were hiring aggressively, super aggressively, and they were spending aggressively. So the first big change was going from agency world where clients were slashing budgets and they still want to do a lot of work, but they had half the money. And then now going to the client side where they were spending an insane amount of money at a very high frequency on lots of campaigns, doing lots of things. So that was great. That was fantastic for the first year, 1 year, 2 years. Amazing. Coming back to the agency world, then it's just kind of like back to reality, but it's not. I guess it's the same case now. So even the e-commerce guys are slashing budgets towards the end. Uh, wanted to do just as much with a lot less, which meant less shiny production houses, no celebrities, or a big cut on things like that, and then come back to agency. So it was a go in, everything's on an up, and then as it's going down, kind of recalibrating back to what we're used to in the agency world around 2019, 2020, and it's basically back to that more or less again. But yes, everything now is project based. There are very few retainers out there. A lot of agencies have just cut ties with very long standing clients, and everyone's kind of going into this project based model. Um, so yeah, it's kind of back to that. I think even the e-commerce guys are once again doing the project-based agency pitches again, and the in-house teams have shrunk.
I guess the next thing I wanted to talk about, and we have discussed this already,
Mhm.
obviously. I was asking you before you joined for the session, what was your motivation to? I mean, we've talked about the great things that you've experienced and the things you've learned. when you were at the client side and you brought it back to the agency side now. But I had asked you a question: what was the motivation? What was the impetus for you to move to the client side?
Okay.
And so yeah, why don't you talk about that?
Okay. So my first official full-time title was digital copywriter. And I don't think that, also obviously that role doesn't exist anymore. Um, but it was a great thing to have in the CV at the start, right? Because it showed that in a period where there were still a lot of digital agencies, where not all full service agencies had digital as an offering, you have that extra edge. So from very early on, I felt like it was very important to round out your CV, right? So if it's in terms of types of clients you work with, so for example, making sure you get all the things in there like banking, pharmaceuticals, insurance, fashion, even like the more things you have in your CV, the more well-rounded you look, or beauty even, because a lot of the times when people win a big campaign for a niche product, let's say cosmetics, for example, they will want to know, does this creative have beauty experience? Does this creative have fashion experience? Does this creative have pharmaceutical experience? Um, and often that's the barrier to someone getting a job or working on something. So I've always wanted to have as many of these things in my book or CV as possible. And going over to e-commerce, which was huge at the time, be great to have that on my CV. Now, unfortunately, when uh, everyone started venturing outdoors, going back to work, shopping in shopping in person again, and that experienced a dip, then I think everyone knows there was a lot of retrenchment going on. So that happened to me. Uh, and when the opportunity at We Are Social came up, it was great. So there's just one more thing that's not in my CV at the moment: social. And it'd be great to put that in there. It's kind of like the what digital was in 2008. Social is that now in 2025, right? We're still at that point where there's still lots of social agencies out there, but full service agencies want to more and more, they want to get the social business as well. So it's important to have that in your CV, I feel. So not 100% planned for, but definitely part of my plan.
So you mentioned returning to agency was the reason. Retrenchment was the reason for that, right?
Yes.
I guess I was asking what was the reason how you ended up in e-commerce in the first place.
Oh, so same reason. So e-commerce was experiencing a bit of a slump early last year, and a year into the pandemic, 2021, same thing happened. I was laid off at the agency I was at, and that pushed me to go to the e-commerce side of things. And at that point, everyone was like, "Oh, why? Why do you want to take this job and all that?"
It was
And I was
just
like,
serendipity then in that case, right?
"Yeah."
It was okay.
There was definitely a lot of apprehension, not from me, but from everyone else around me. But it wasn't very long after that everyone was like, "I want to do that as well." Uh, Unfortunately, all the spots were taken. So yeah, the change in mindset happened really quickly. I would say somewhere in the middle of 2021, everyone wanted to go to the client side. So I was super fortunate to be laid off and have that opportunity appear. So yeah, perfect timing.
Advertising has in a lot of regions, Asia Pacific, in Australasia, they are known for optimizing. I'm going to politely use the word optimizing their team.
Mm,
I know for a fact that there is an agency in New Zealand that routinely will get rid of 10% every year,
mm,
and it I don't know have the full facts. It may or may not be because of performance. It
mm,
it may also be just because that's the way you keep optimizing during a
mm,
time when
mm,
our industry has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
mm,
Advertising has always, or people in advertising has always been facing redundancies. Yeah. So retrenchments rather. Um, so it's got to be a little bit more normalized, don't you think? I mean, you're pretty much open about like this has happened
mm,
at that agency to the client side, and now
mm.
that's kind of. Do you think retrenchment is just part of being in a workforce these days?
Uh,
I guess I
unfortunately,
guess I guess the reason I'm asking is because there's a shame factor. You know what I mean? I guess I'm talking about that, and in relation to that.
okay. I would say both times it happened to me, I fully believe it wasn't a performance thing. I mean, that was what I was told to me both times. I guess first time it happened was a bit unfortunate because it was a case of we had won some pretty big businesses, but then they moved out. They moved out of the country. They moved their headquarters somewhere else. So the account then went to another office. So it's still within the network, but it wasn't ours anymore. But that happened twice. So that was a big one. So the retrenchment happened. And then, like you said, with the case of e-commerce is a lot of times it's not really, these things don't happen because of the economy that much, but more because of optimization, or increasing shareholder value, or making the numbers look good. So again, it wasn't about performance. Um,
Yeah,
shame,
I
yeah.
think I'm agreeing with you. I think what I'm saying to you is people in our industry
Mm,
don't don't worry so well. Nobody wants to be retrenched.
yeah,
Let's
of
let's
course not.
let's say that first and foremost. But I think like as an ad person, you can have a friend who's, let's say, an engineer,
Mhm.
and they
Ah,
don't
yes.
understand. You know what I mean? They don't. It's like,
Mhm,
wow, you got retrenched. Like
mhm,
not all industries understand that it's
mhm,
almost like it's like a nature of the game in a way. I don't think it's really a good part of the game,
mhm,
but you mentioned it, shareholder value. It could be a lot of things, and it's not performance led. And I think that's what that meant by the shame. Like from a
mhm,
societal point of view, it's normal for mom and dad to go, why did you get retrenched, what did you do, like
mhm,
it's that mentality is not necessarily a common language between sectors that we have to live with.
mhm, mhm.
And
Well, it
yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't just the. Well, this time around, it wasn't just the marketing department, right? It happened across the board, for all functions. Uh, so definitely, I think there was a lot more. There's more rage than shame because, oh, how
How
could they
so?
do this? This was not justified, so on and so forth. But I mean, like the first time around, it just basically, I just gave myself a day or two to get over it. Got my book together, started annoying everyone, knocking on all the doors, putting feelers out for freelance. So I got really fortunate. Um, Second time around, uh, immediately got a 3-month freelance thing at the agency, and then in that 3 months secured the new job. But it does obviously take, uh, you know, having thick skin, which I definitely have. Uh, I don't think I felt necessarily shame in the retrenchment because, like you said, it's quite a common thing in what we do, and I don't think anyone's immediate reaction would be, "Oh, what did you do? You must have said something or done something." That never came up. There's a lot of understanding, I think, especially within the community, or like a lot of people that I have worked with or still talk to or hang out with. I think there is a pretty strong support group, at least within creatives, where when someone needs a job, everyone knows. Especially in Singapore, it's quite a tight community. constantly trying to, help someone out, recommend someone, see who's hiring. So yeah, I don't think there's a lot of stigma attached to retrenchment. There definitely still is. There are people who feel badly about it to the point where they don't want anyone to know. But yeah, it's something you need to get over.
I think very much like how we said, the longer you're in advertising, you have to develop thick skin anyway.
Mm,
I think the longer you understand the industry, the
mm,
more you realize anyway that these things are not necessarily in your control. They
mm,
might not be fair, but it is the nature of this business
yeah.
called advertising.
Mm,
Which kind of I guess leads me to this other conversation that we were having just before we got on for the session, and I put it down here as the word relevancy. I think it's a
okay.
word that came out of your mouth, not mine. And I have a quote here, uh, and I believe I'm quoting you correctly here. Right?
Okay.
I'm going to keep it short, but I want you to build on it. You said something to the effect of, you find it challenging to keep up with the latest trends, and I put here in bracket, besides a little bit of metal and fashion. That's kind of I kind of just left it at that,
Okay.
but it was very refreshing and something that I would love you to be able to talk about, being a person who's in a leadership position
Mm,
in a specific discipline of creativity, because it's all about trend.
mm,
It's all about understanding the now and the tomorrow. Can you
mm.
tell me a little bit about the word relevancy here?
Okay. Uh, I think the thing about all these trends is not just, oh, I've seen it, but it's also I get why it's trendy. I think that's important. Getting why certain things are trendy, and I think increasingly we are seeing a lot of things that are trending for seemingly no reason, but there's always a reason why these things are trending, right? Because it touches on a certain truth that you might not understand, or it trends because it's referencing things that you might not understand, or it's trending because of a micro culture thing that you haven't seen before. And previously, where it was just, you know, if you're talking about culture, it could be as simple as, does this guy like rock music or rap music or pop music? Those things are very clearly defined. Now there's a million subgenres for everything, and those influence a million other subgenres in things like fashion or humor or content, or why a certain person is trending or why a certain format is trending. So to have a handle on all of these things at once is impossible. Even if you are 16 or 25, like, it's impossible to cover all of these things at once, but to kind of get an idea of horrible word, the zeitgeist of the whole thing is very, very challenging. I think especially challenging if you are not of the time, right? So I think one of my biggest challenges and interests, I would say, is keeping up with all these things, and it's getting increasingly challenging. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, how about this? I mean, even before you were in leadership positions, I've been
Mm,
in leadership positions in the past. I think we kind of knew that part of the reason why we're there is because of what we bring from, at the time, our youth.
mm, mm,
Our youth, our understanding of the culture and the zeitgeist. And
mm,
I've always assumed, certainly in our industry, the creative industry, and that is why you have to surround yourself with uh, people who can
yep.
speak that language.
Mm,
So then my question is, though, but then why would that then be a problem? As long as you're surrounding yourself with the people who can fill in those gaps,
right.
find that white space. From a
Mm,
leadership point of view, why do you feel I use the word again, regrettably, irrelevancy issue? Because, you know, I haven't. I'm not in a full time agency role. I haven't been
Mhm.
for the longest time. So maybe there's something that I'm not seeing. But I've always known that if there's this boss, we are there to support the vision that this
Mhm.
person is putting forth, and we can help fill it in by
Mhm.
the ideas that come from our own experiences, because
Mhm.
we are experiencing the culture, we're going out, we're watching, plays or whatever it might be that we're bringing to the table.
Mhm.
Why then that feeling of that malaise that comes from what you're saying? Why is that malaise there?
Because I have to get it, you know. I feel like if I want to be 100% behind something or support something or build on something, then I have to get it. I really need to get it. So down to the language, the background. Um, it's very hard. It's very hard to like pinpoint exactly what it is. Um, Say for example, anything to do with K-pop is completely alien to me. I have to admit. So I have to put some time into figuring out what all that's about. And there are only so many hours in a day, right? Uh, if I spend 2 hours at night rewatching something that I've watched before, it almost feels like I've wasted time because I know what that is. Um, Wait, there is a point here. There is a point here. Um, okay, so like you said just now, right? A lot of things. I find it's very hard to keep up with a lot of things. But I've been very fortunate that there are some things I'm interested in from a particular time frame that have come back into fashion again. They're popular again. Like people are now referencing the way uh, people dress in 2008, for example. That's coming back, or metal is having like a real resurgence again. So that's something I'm familiar with. That's coming back. So when it comes to things like that and the trends that come out of those things, like I get it, 100%, get it. But for other things, bit difficult, right? So I do spend and a lot of time on Reddit, just getting familiar with all the memes, and understanding what all those things are. Uh, it's not just for work. It's also part of my own responsibility to myself to stay mentally young and to be able to speak the language, understand all these things, and therefore when these things then get translated into work or are presented as ideas or shared as ideas, that I get it. I don't need to waste someone's 30 minutes explaining to me why something is funny or why something is trending. I just have this. I need to know. I need to get it.
Okay, just to play devil's advocate,
Mhm.
are you then not making a positive case for ageism in our industry?
Oh, so that is definitely something that I'm worried about, right? Because I never saw myself as old. Um,
I think what I mean to say is I think what I mean to say is the stuff that you've cited is
mhm,
you have to do this because it might not even be because of work or
mhm,
requirement, but it's you as well because you want to be up to date,
mhm,
up with the lingo of whatever it is.
mhm.
But the fact that it is hard to do, it is just physically hard to do in the course of a day, let's say, right? It could be
Yes,
that, could
yes.
be other things. You have a family, you've got kids,
Mhm,
you've got to work your however many hours on a day-to-day basis.
mhm,
I what I'm saying is, does that not then kind of make a case for the never-ending trend in our industry that is usually labeled as ageism? Like, if, like, what I'm saying is that if someone is accused that you are applying ageism to your industry
mhm.
model, uh, couldn't they not turn around and say, well, see, listen to what someone like Daniel is saying? Are we are You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Does that make a case for it then, that it's okay to have ageism? And listen, I'm not on one. I have an opinion on the matter, of
Mhm.
course, just like yourself. But I just want to hear your opinion because you're the one who's kind of built this narrative up now.
Right.
That's the first thing that I think of. Well, then if we're doing that, then how are we ever going to get around the fact that our industry is notorious for being blamed
Mm.
for ageism?
I don't think people are targeted just for being old.
No,
I think,
but
yeah.
that term has been thrown out,
Mhm.
and you kind of have made a case. I'm just
Mhm.
reading the room of what you just said. That
Mhm.
well, there you go. That's the reason why we have to always keep going younger and younger, fresher and fresher all the time.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
for what you and I do, creativity, strategy,
Mhm.
even maybe.
Mhm. Uh, I think okay. It's more a responsibility to stay relevant, right? Regardless of
Yes.
how old you are. I mean, you could easily be 30 and irrelevant if you don't, if you don't practice that kind of responsibility. It just becomes easier to put that by the side if you're a bit older on, later on in your career, right? Because you're stuck in your ways. You it's been working for me for 15, 16 years. It's fine. This should definitely work. And a lot of the time, I'm realizing it doesn't because of however many reasons that have surfaced recently that you might not be familiar with simply because you didn't keep up, right? So it's not, I guess it's not an age thing. It's more of a complacency thing. I think it's important to be responsible about being, relevant or staying up to date, for sure. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think
Mm,
that's definitely a fair response to what I'm saying.
mm,
So then, what I would say to you is coming back to the example I stated, which is where before we were in those positions, we were there to help feed
yeah.
whoever the leader was at the time and make sure that our not just for the leader but for the agency, for us, we're like, this is our
Mhm.
company, we're going to do the best work. Do you think, do you are you suggesting that it has become harder to do that now than it was 10 years ago, or is that's not the point?
Oh, well, then I'm sure you've encountered, you know, situations where, hey, I think this works, and then someone in charge goes, I don't get it. Yeah, it might be funny to you, but it's not funny to me. Or it might be this might be really intriguing to you, but sorry, not to me. Don't get it. So that definitely has happened to me many, many times, and I don't want to be that guy. So if I were to say I don't get something, I want to be sure that I really don't get it or it doesn't deserve to be gotten. If that makes sense, because I mean, it's only fair. It's only fair to judge things on how they are meant to be understood. And if you don't understand it on a basic level, then I guess it's kind of your fault if something dies that shouldn't have. So yeah, I think maybe that's what I'm kind of getting to. Like, you don't want to. No one wants to listen to someone who doesn't get it. I think on any level. And I'm not just saying like in terms of a leadership position or whatever. If I'm a client and I come to an agency and uh, they don't get what my customer wants, then they don't get what I want, I suppose.
I think in some ways I feel you might be being a little bit hard on yourself, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I've been in situations where I was that guy who was telling the other guy what is actually the right trendy. Like I was talking to the old person saying, "Hey, no, this is the way we should do it," right?
Mhm.
But I would say when I respected that person, I I was to to all I wanted to see was that older leader
Mhm.
learn something from it and want to learn something from it.
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, if we surround ourselves with the right type of people and they want us to all kind of if there's no power struggle kind of a toxic environment kind of a team, which happens in the US a lot. I've heard it's really, really ruthless. Everyone will backstab each other. But I think if we generally, like, I've literally, I'm, as you're saying it, I was thinking that I've been in the situation, but the thought that was going through my head was, I really want this guy who I really admire, who's a genius, because I can still learn so much from him. And if
Mhm.
I can if I can teach him or her these things, then that's amazing.
Mm.
As long as you've got the willingness to learn, I
Yep.
think what I mean by saying you're being hard on yourself is you want to know everything before it happens. And I'm saying you can't do that, buddy. We can't. We're not
Fair. No.
robots.
Fair. 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 Fair.
What I'm saying is you're saying, like, I want to be like, he's getting $5, he's getting a $5 salary, I'm getting a $10 salary. I need to make sure I know everything he knows. And I'm saying is that's unfair. I think we
No. No.
can't
No.
do
Yep.
that. And so what I'm saying is, as long as you go in but when you do learn about it, we go, well, teach me, dude, teach
Mhm.
me about this, and I learn. That's okay. But
Mhm.
I got that feeling, and maybe I'm wrong. I got this feeling like you've got this anxiety that I need to bloody know what K-pop is. Well, maybe you do, sure. I
Mhm.
I I know this much, and maybe the world of K-pop is that much. But as long as you dip your feet in, hopefully the people you surround yourself with can help with that. I don't I
Oh, for sure. For
my
sure.
As
Yeah.
a friend, my advice is, maybe don't think that you have to be at 100% of everything all the time. You're gonna kill yourself,
Oh, no.
buddy.
No. 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 I'm thinking like 30% is good enough for me. But yeah.
Sure,
No. No.
sure.
No. It's. I definitely ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. No,
Mm.
I look again. I think it's just it was really commentary on just embrace the leadership thing, man. It's about, no, you can't know everything, but that's why they say, always hire the best people, right?
Mhm.
This is this perennial thing that we hear all the time. Bad bosses hire people who are not as good as it. Like, no, that's why you hire people who are better than you. You
Mhm.
can learn from them while you're teaching them something. And I think we are in a very stressful time in advertising, not because of the ideas and the K-pops that are coming out, but more about the industry shrinking anyway. So
Yeah.
there are enough headaches as it is, and to embrace what I think is a right
Mhm.
a right for an ECD, which is, let's get the best people. You help me, I help you. Let's grow
Mm.
together. I think, yeah, yeah. Relevancy is a weird thing. I get it, and I only brought up the ageism thing because you see it all the time after a
Yeah. No.
certain
For sure.
point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
And
not
like I
saying you're
said,
not getting it. I think
that kind
I
of
think
informs my fear as well.
yes, and
Mm.
that is always going to be there. I think a lot of our peers that we started with, we're seeing the relevancy that they're leaving behind now. It's inevitable. All I think certainly for a social media based agency, where I'm imagine, I know you guys are not just doing social media stuff, but
Mhm.
at least you're not in how about this? At least you're not in and without naming any names, at least you're not in an agency that does an FMCG global account and they're only doing TV ads.
Right.
That is happening. Those are the people who are kind of, I feel a little bit bad for. They're getting to use their skills. On one hand, if I'm in there, I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm honing my skills of what I know. Given where we are today in advertising, I think the situation you're in, where you have a little bit of anxiety, maybe a little bit less than what you have,
Okay.
is not a bad thing. I think you're in the right place to be able to figure that out, man. But at the end of the day, it's just a job, it's kids, family first, health first, all the
Hmm.
rest. I know you run and stuff, so you're a healthy motherfucker. I'm not gonna get into that. Sorry, that's a dollar in the swear jar for me. I put down this final topic as advertising is fun, quote
Hmm.
unquote. And I think this is uh, Daniel, ever get to that age where uh when the old guy in the room says back in my day, and you go, man, like pipe down, old man. But in a way, I don't feel my age. I don't know if you feel your age. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But we're in a situation now where it's not about back in my day. Um, it's deeper than that. Advertising. Let's be honest. It's not like being in banking or finance.
Mm,
It's not like being an architect. Even though an
mm,
architecture is creative based, I guess, right?
mm,
There is something to be said that advertising uh, was the cool career
mm,
back when we started.
mm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you're seeing things, how you're feeling about it, where we are today?
Advertising, if I were to compare, say, being a creative to being a doctor, okay? If let's say you're a GP,
Very bold example, but go
yeah,
on.
I mean, in terms of what you do, right? If you're a
Sure.
GP, chances are what you'll see every day is flu, diarrhea, stomach aches, someone sprained an ankle or someone broke a leg. Like it's always going to be those same things. Now, I'm not going to say that just because you're GP doesn't mean some new unseen disease is going to turn up at your door. Sure, that will happen, but it's a lot rarer, right? So more or less, you do the same thing every day. You do the same thing every day. You go to work and you don't bring it home. Uh, I'm sure unless okay, I'm saying GP because chances are people are not going to die on you, but you don't really bring the work home. You do more or less the same thing every day. You get paid for being an expert. People come to you to solve their problems. That's a doctor's job. As a creative, you could be working on something this week that you completely understand. It's easy as hell. It's super fun. You have a great time, and then you go home. But then 2 weeks later, you're working on something that's an absolute nightmare. You can't crack. It's super stressful. You go home, you can't sleep, but you can't do anything about it because you've never done it before. You just have to, keep thinking on it until you get it. So that's the difference, I think, between not just doctors and creatives, but creatives and a lot of other professions out there where you're not doing the same thing every week. So it's yeah. So that's the first main difference. It's super taxing. Um, but because of that,
I,
it's
I hope
fun.
this
Yeah.
is making a case for advertising was fun because
No, no,
so
no,
far
no,
you've
no, no, no,
talked
no.
about headaches and sleepless nights, but go on.
But like you're constantly learning something, right? It's fun because you're always learning something, figuring something out, uh, and you're not just trying to figure something out. You're trying to do something really engaging from what you're learning. So if you are advertising to a group or a niche or an audience that you are not familiar with, you not only have to make sense of it, it has to be engaging for them as well. They have to look at it and go, wow, that's cool, wow, that's convincing at the very least, right? Um, so
I,
that's
I, I
fun. Yep.
yeah. I used to. I remember when I started in advertising at the near the beginning of the millennium. I used to brag to my friends who were engineers and in computer tech and all sorts of things. I used to tell them the reason I love my job is I can work on something this whole week and I can learn so much about something I never knew about before,
Hmm.
and then I never have to do it again because there's something completely new to learn the next week.
Yeah.
And there was something very fresh about that.
Hmm.
But it was built in an environment that was about experimentation and trying new things. That's what was all. I think that's where the line is coming from. That
Hmm.
you and I talked about advertising as fun.
Mm.
Is it
As
still
in,
fun?
yeah, there's a lot more because the whole point of the job is not to do the same things the same way as somebody else. So there's
Yeah,
always
because
something.
because it has to be
Yeah.
an original idea. An
Correct.
original idea means you can never do it again, and nobody else can do it again. So you're always chasing after that next new idea, right? That's
Yeah.
that's that's great. Um, Although, so that's the kind of thing that makes us say advertising is fun.
Hmm.
But when advertising, it doesn't look like that anymore.
Hmm.
talk about that. You also mentioned a quote of someone, one of your ex-colleagues said about going into meetings to meet clients. You know, a little bit of that, all of
Yeah.
that.
Okay. I think a lot of the reason why people don't think, or a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people don't think advertising is fun anymore because it's become really stressful, right? If you, yeah, it's just it's not as fat as it used to be. So there's a lot of pressure on every single presentation, every single meeting, and it makes it feel a bit like it's a drag for some people. Like, oh, we need to go and talk to these guys again, blah 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 blah. Blah. But the one thing that the CD I used to work with told me on our way to one of these presentations was, this is the 1 hour the entire week that the clients have been looking forward to all week. They just the when we step in the office, it's the funnest time of the week for them. They get to see uh, how their problem can be something engaging. They get to see how a marketing challenge can be something fun for people to watch or engage with, or interact with. So that's the best hour of their week, or 2 hours or 3 hours if you're unfortunate. So if you turn up knowing that they want to see you, they want to see what you're bringing to the table, uh, then it's a shift. It shifts your mindset. Is that this is going to be a fun meeting. They're going to go in. They're going to uh, enjoy this meeting, enjoy sharing our ideas, enjoy hearing the feedback, and enjoy having a bit of a discussion or even debate with the clients. So that's just one thing. That's only presentations. But understanding that you're going to work every day to do that, or to prepare for these things, or to come up with ideas for these things, is meant to be fun. It's not meant to be a drag. Because if I wanted to do something boring and routine, and I hate my life, I hate my job, I wouldn't be in advertising.
You
Uh,
just be a doctor.
yeah, I mean, if I could. But you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people treat advertising as a job now. It's I need to do this thing, and not I cannot wait to crack this and do something interesting and have fun sitting around for 9, 10 hours and just coming up with ideas. I mean, obviously, then you have to make sure they make sense and do it. That's a bit of work, obviously, but for the most part, people are paying you to just think and talk. Yeah.
In general, I would agree that the opposite is now true. That advertising is not fun. In general, I would agree, but I would also say that, again, because I've been talking to some different people and understanding that the way different cultures are doing it, different advertising agencies are doing it. I sometimes wonder. Well, first of all, everything is reversible.
Mm,
We can easily make it fun if we know what we're doing, and if we're not taking it. So I don't want to say the word seriously. I think we're treating advertising the wrong way. There are markets, Australia being one of them, New Zealand being one of them, markets that have not lost that essence of,
mm,
not about what makes advertising fun, but doing advertising in a way which still keeps it fun for people in the industry.
mm,
The purity way of doing advertising, and there's still markets that do that. So it's an experience you and I have both seen, and I have seen that change as well. Living in the Southeast Asian part of the industry,
mm,
it's not everywhere. It's on most places these days because of how the business has changed.
mm,
But I have to say, I'm quite jealous. There are some markets that are still doing it in a very interesting way. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at is, number one, that the it's no wonder that the new generation are finding it very hard to fall in love with something that you and I will find naturally to say, yeah, how hard is it to love advertising? But you can argue that it's not going to be seen the same way by the next gen, by the new gen, or the
mm,
current gen, or the gen just below you and me.
mm,
It's getting harder and harder because they are coming up in a time when back in my days when I bought a ice cream cone for a nickel, kind of, they never had that. So obviously they're going to be more bitter about it. But it really comes down to how we build our agencies, man.
Mm,
I think that's another reason why, like, I guess we can say that your agency is not a multinational. It's is it an independent? It's an indie, right? You're with an indie agency, correct? That's the reason why indie agencies are doing better than the big shops in
I mean, it
general.
is. It is. I might be wrong, but no, it's not. It's not. It's part
Do
of a.
you,
It's part of a bigger network.
sure.
Yeah, their
I,
offices.
I,
Yeah.
I get it, but you know what I mean. Like, an agency of 300 people, and they're doing it a certain way, and
Mm,
they're talking to the shareholders in New York, who sit on a big marble table, and hold their hands like this. It's
mhm,
not
mhm.
probably not one of those.
Right.
I
Right.
think what I'm trying to say is, it's all how we build it, and why boutique agencies and independent agencies are probably doing better, because they can afford to hold on to culture a little bit longer, and that's why it attracts talent of a certain type.
Mhm.
But yeah, as an industry, it's suffering a little bit. um, I don't know if there's a solution to it. um, but I like the anecdote about, you're going to be the best thing that happens in their day. You're right, that's we don't have that same feeling anymore, or I don't get that same feeling anymore. It is a job,
Mm.
and the one voice on my shoulder will tell me, well, grow up, you're a grown up now, do the grown ups. You're at a certain level, do the grown
Mm.
up job. It's like, yeah, but it's not even just about that. It's even a GP has to find a reason to go in every day,
Yeah.
even if you're going to get puked on,
Mm.
right?
Um,
You're doing it for the love of it.
I think okay. I have a clearer answer, right? I think if you find yourself dreading a brainstorm, or dreading sharing your ideas, or dreading presenting those ideas, then something's wrong, right? Because if you go into a brainstorm or an idea review and you are open to sharing, you're opening to listen to other people's ideas and build on them instead of going, I don't like it. I think if everyone comes in with the mentality of building upon each other's ideas, not saying no from the jump, and like really thinking, there must be a reason why someone came up with something, and we might help each other figure out what that thing is. That's actually really fun. Versus just like, okay, here's one slide, never mind, let's skip this one. Like that sort of, like when that starts to happen, then you're not gonna have a good time. No matter how ridiculous that thing is on the screen, we have to make it make sense before we move on. Only when we've seen that it completely does not make any sense, then we can have a laugh about it. Then the next one becomes more fun to talk about. I think that's the right way to do things. And then when you are done at the end of the day, and you've hopefully identified or shortlisted three ideas, let's say, and then you expand on those and you expand on those together, then together everyone in the agency feels confident about this thing. The client will see that. The client will see that everyone's behind this. The client will see that you've really thought this through. And that one idea of the three may have come from a slide that you didn't even want to share in the first place because you thought it was dumb, or you didn't think about how that would open a conversation, or click with someone else in the team, or make someone laugh because you didn't see it a certain way. Like, I think that's the funnest part, is when people are open about the ideas that they're sharing, rather than, if we don't crack this now and this doesn't have legs to go into an activation or a social idea, or I don't see how this translates from a TV to a KV, or blah 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 and all that, then things die without having a chance, and it gets really boring, and yeah.
Um, okay, so no, you're right, man. Keep the fun alive, really, I guess. So Daniel, I got one last topic here, and
Mhm.
I think it's very important for everybody to know a little bit about this, because it's a community thing we all want to share with each other. You shared the story the other day, and I think we should talk about it. Tell
Okay.
me about the time that those aliens abducted you.
Did it?